Good morning, everyone. We have a really August gathering here. And let's start with the introduction. A lot of us know a little bit about some of the personalities here, but it's good to do a formal introduction and any format. Maybe Tushar, you can start, and then we can have Pramod, Raj, and Sumit. So over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Tushar Ved. I'm President Apparel Group India. India, we operate about 20 plus brands and 300 plus retail stores. We are omnichannel, so we do online, offline, and shop in shop. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pramod Arora. I represent PVR INOX in India. We have about 2,000 screens in the country spread across various states. And that's all.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Rajneet Kohli. I'm the Executive Director of Food and Beverages for Hindustan Unilever. We have some amazing brands like Taj, Taza, Red Label, Horlicks, Boost, Kisan. Prior to that, I was with Britannia, and I've also run Domino's stores as well. So, pleasure to be here.
Hi, my name is Sumit Dhingra. I'm the CEO for Bestseller India. We have brands like Jack and Jones, Veramoda, Only, Selected. We also do kids brands for Jack and Jones and Veramoda in India. We run more than 300 stores, 2,000 shop-in-shops, our .coms, marketplaces, and omni-channel player. Very excited to be here. Thanks, Shailesh, for getting all of us together for this discussion.
Hi, everyone. I'll also quickly introduce myself, Shailesh Chaturvedi. I recently left my role as the MD of a listed company, built brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, over 20 years journey in India. I was with British Madura Coats earlier, built brands like Louis Philippe Van Heusen, Allen Solly, etc. Was briefly in Hong Kong with Benetton running the Asia Pac business. So I'm in transition from one job to another job. So it's a good time to be doing things like moderating panel with such interesting people. So let's straight head into the assignment. 2 trillion retail dream. Are we building it right? So just the context, what I saw, the industry is close to $1 trillion right now across the kind of stream we have here. And if we have to hit the 2 trillion dream in next 10 years, we have to grow this industry at close to 9 plus, almost double-digit growth. It's an aggressive sort of growth path. And we have the right panel to discuss with them that are we building it right. So let's start the opening commentary on the topic itself, that this is an aggressive rollout, double-digit growth over 10 years, going from little less than $1 trillion to 2 trillion across the fields of retail. So let's see what the panelists have to say. And always, whenever this $1 trillion discussion about Indian economy comes, people say, okay, we're going to be a 4 trillion economy, but per capita is still low at 3,000. So I want to ask that question to the panel, that how important is 2 trillion, this aggressive growth path, and also does it have a per capita, like a quality of consumption, quality of life issue? So let's throw it open to the panel, whoever wants to take the question first. Happy to have a free-flowing discussion on the topic itself. That does it make sense? Is it important? Is it aggressive? Does it have any per capita issue linked to the topic? So over to the panelist.
See, when you talk about the $2 trillion economy or the $2 trillion retail economy by 2032-34, my take has been that this economy already exists. What we are looking forward to is perhaps organizing the unorganized. The moment you look at retail, today it's like $950 billion approximately, and let's say we are looking at going to 2 billion. So the sales may not be 2 billion, it may be 1.6, 1.7, so it'll just going to raise up by inflationary indices and reach 2 billion by 2032 on. To have a global voice wherein you're recognized as a $2 trillion economy, retail economy, you just basically need to get the organized side of it, which effectively means an inclusive growth, which effectively means that you basically need to have the physical stores, the large physical stores, the Kirana stores, and the digital footprint all being encompassed into an organized way. And perhaps that is a challenge, wherein a Kirana store today buys into the vision that this $2 trillion economy holds for them.
Yes, Sumit.
Yeah, I can add on. I think it's not a either or question. I think both of them have to go hand in hand. But if I have to choose one, I think the aggregate economy is great for policymaker, it's great for investors. But when I look at from my business point of view, per capita definitely is extremely important, right? When a consumer decides to walk into our stores to pick up a pair of denim or a dress, it's the disposable income which really matters. So I think between the two, that's critical. Having said that, I think the aggregate economy tells us something extremely important. It tells us about the enormous opportunity that this country has ahead of us, and it's probably a multi-decadal opportunity. Because if the per capita income keeps growing, the consumption will automatically come. And today, collectively, everybody on the stage, we were having a discussion in the room. It's less than 10% of the population that we cater to, right? And the demand, the aspiration is there. The wallet needs to catch up. As per capita income grows, I think the opportunity which we have in front of us is amazing. So, in my view, I think the aggregate economy gets you on the magazine covers, but to get people in the stores, we need per capita.
I can perhaps add on. You know, the good news is, and it's a good news, is we're debating whether it's 2 billion, 2 trillion, or 3 trillion. I genuinely believe we're on a good path to Viksit Bharat, where India is doing. So India's GDP growth clearly signals to the globe that we're an economy which is the highest growing, and also will ensure investments and productivity comes into India. But what it also means is it going to give more money in the hands of the people? Because they're two very different sales. Scale doesn't mean the prosperity of the people coming in. And therefore, per capita consumption will genuinely ensure, you know, the spending happens. At Hindustan Unilever, we are at one of the largest FMCGs in India. We are out of 10 households, we're there in 9.5 households will have Hindustan Unilever product. We're trying to find that 0.5 people who are the ones who are not buying. So that's the endeavor. But this is how we look at India. And because it's not one India, I always feel India is a continent, not a country. We are 28 countries and plus more together. But how, instead of dividing into, you know, by tiers, the way we look at it now is by affluence. So India has 60 million power spenders. They have the per capita consumption same as France. And that's where a lot of us are catering to, all the retail brands are catering to. 60 million people, power spenders, who are per capita as France. There are 650 million people who are premiumizers, you can say middle class, upper middle class, who are really aspiring. They have a per capita of as high as Indonesia, which is growing and trending. Third, 700 million, which are democratizers, which are also, again, have a per capita consumption like Africa. So we have to look at India in these three parts and see which one of them we are catering to. I would genuinely believe, while, you know, trillion economy will ensure scale and provide opportunity, but a per capita consumption is extremely important because it leads to aspirations. Aspirations lead to consumption, and consumption leads to premiumization. So it's a virtuous circle that needs to be there. And therefore, the answer to this is not whether the 3 billion will actually add more consumers. This is how my thinking is. The 2 trillion or 3 trillion economy will add more consumers, but per capita consumption will add more money in the hands of the consumer. So the answer of it is not or, it is an and. A trillion economy and a per capita consumption improvement is important for India's Viksit Bharat mission.
I only want to say 1 trillion, 2 trillion, 3 trillion, it doesn't matter. What matters is India is growing, and the young consumer is growing with it. The aspirations of the Indian consumers are growing. It will be a lot of money in a lot of people's hand. To me, it doesn't matter is it per capita or the total money coming in, because the money that comes in the system will go out, more people will be employed, more people will start shopping, and more people will spend money, right? If you see today, you know, just to give you an example, we entered India in 2001. And when we entered India, it was a very different retail market, different consumption. People were even finding mass brands as expensive, the price points are expensive. We must have opened about 60, 70 stores till 2010. I moved to India in 2010. And this year, financial year, when we close in March, we'll be opening 90 stores from this year. And next year, we're going to open 200 stores. And we are not only doing few brands. We are saying, where is the consumer? We used to be pre-COVID 1% e-commerce. after COVID, and we are continuing that trend. We are 35% of our top line comes from e-commerce and profitable e-commerce. So there is a consumer there. Now my team and we are thinking of shifting that to quick commerce because we are seeing the consumer is saying, I want the product now. Are we as a retailer aligned? Are we as a retailer agile to say, I want to be where the consumer is? We are doing coffee shops, which we got 2 years back, Tim Hortons. We are now going to open Carrefour hypermarket. We are getting into beauty. We are getting into wherever we feel the consumer is. And we are getting into price points, low price point. We are getting into bridge to luxury. We are getting into luxury. And we are getting into premium and super premium. We just took a brand called Cotton On, right, from Australia. They told me they have 600 stores in Australia. Population, I think, is less than Mumbai. But 600 stores, right? In every corner there is a store. And India, with the large population which we have, the consumption that we have, the market, you have to be in India and you will grow in India. The question is, do you know how to grow? And are you there? Are you changing as per your customer needs? I cannot do what I was doing 20 years back. I have to change. Quick commerce is a new trend. We have to go with that. 1 billion, a trillion, 2 trillion, it's a good number. But the market is also growing, the consumption is overall growing. Thank you.
So clearly, all the panelists are clearly hinting that yes, there is a potential, there is unorganized to organized, big growth per capita and overall growth. So that, I think it's quite clear there is a clear tailwinds for growth in India. We want to now double click into your own industry, right? And each one of you come from a very different industry background. Now, for your industries, particularly about your business, what are the top 2, top 3 enablers for achieve this growth, which eventually will lead to a growth for India from close to $1 trillion retail to a $2 trillion retail. So what it plays out for your business? What are those 2, 3 pillars that will lead to this kind of growth that overall economy is poised for? So anyone can start and talk about top 3 enablers in your own business.
So, for us, the top 3 enablers, one would be the infrastructure. As it's growing in the country is connecting, and there's a lot of impetus on creating the right infrastructure. So, as my friend Ranjit actually suggested, that 60 million people is what someone like us is addressing today. If I have to basically reach the next level, which is the 650 million people, I need to have the infrastructure ready for that. So that infrastructure, the impetus on infrastructure for the last 5 years, the way we are seeing it, is really something to appreciate. The way the country and the government and the policy makers have gone ahead trying to create that infrastructure. Second is, somewhere we may not realize, but in very short future, the way AI is playing out, what AI is doing is, it is providing a safety and a security net to a lot of people, which effectively means that they do not need to save as much as they needed to do it yesterday. Today, they can basically earn and spend. That basically makes the per capita spending go up. Because if you are more secured, then you're not looking at it that I need to save for the next 20 years, 30 years. If I hit something, there is insurance to cover that, whatever policies are coming in. And besides that, AI is doing that. So my personal take on AI has always been that it's not going to take out jobs. It's going to bring in a better balance to mankind, wherein you may not really need to spend 8 hours, instead spend 6 hours and earn more for what you were doing yesterday. So that's what AI is perhaps going to do.
Pramod, I'll ask you one more question. That, see, both the points you raise about infrastructure and AI are more environmental point. But what about your organization? What are things you are doing as a business that will enable your business, your organization to grow towards overall growth of the economy? So my question is more about you and your organization, and external environment, AI and infrastructure and the growth. I'm sure that will enable you. But here is also want to pick your brains and the panelists' brain on how you are engineering something in your organization.
So, one of the points which got picked up by the fellow panelists to remain relevant. Now that becomes the most imperative point, to remain relevant. What was relevant yesterday is not going to be relevant tomorrow, is not relevant today also as well. So the relevance plays a huge role. So something like cinemas, the way they used to happen in the yesteryears is not the way they happen today and would not be the way that they will happen tomorrow. There are lots of changes, both from technology perspective and from an experience perspective that is changing. That is being imbibed, and the ones who are imbibing it are basically able to grow.
So what are those 2-3 things you're doing to stay relevant?
So, one is that many of you who are from the yesteryears would have basically been standing at the ticket boxes buying your tickets. Today, about 85% of the people don't buy tickets. The tickets come into your phone. So you have basically an aggregator model wherein someone is selling those tickets online and you don't need to take the consumer through that experience of buying a ticket. He just needs to get in. So it's basically a seamless experience. So that is one of the factors which is playing a role. Other factors being on the content side. So many people talk about the OTT being a competition to cinema. In my take is, what OTT has done is, it has improved the consumption of content amongst consumers, a part of which goes towards out of home, which is OOH, and a part of it remains towards the in-home entertainment. If your whole consumption has gone up, so your out of home consumption is also going up. So that is again playing a role. 60 years and above pre-COVID perhaps were basically going to parks and temples. Today are consuming content, a part of which also comes to the cinemas. So that has played a role wherein the content consumption has become a reality, and in terms of being more organized as an industry. So that is the second part. And third, of course, the relevance of content. One is the physical format. The relevance of content is also improving as we see. So, during the backdoor discussions, a discussion around Dhurandhar was happening. Now, Dhurandhar may not have been relevant 10 years back. Today, it is so relevant that it did those numbers that it did. So on the content side, the producers, they are picking up those threads and making that content which is relevant for today's consumer.
And Raj, in your business, what are your organization, your side of the organization, what are the 2-3 things you are trying to do to enable you to grow to that number that we are all talking about?
Sure. Thanks, Shailesh. From a FMCG perspective, there are two enablers that can really. One is, of course, in the same lines, which is expansion and digitalization of our entire value chain, which means to the last mile. And I'll elaborate on it. Second, to my mind, is strengthen. And it's common for whether it's FMCG, retailer thing, is continue to strengthen the trust of the consumer through purpose, innovation, and premiumization. Let me double click on the first one. When I say expansion of distribution and reach, we as HUL, Hindustan Unilever, get to 9 million outlets today, which is the organized state. It's the largest reach that we have. And we know there is an onslaught of Q-commerce, e-commerce, which are also partners for us. So what we're doing, for example, is working with IM for a course for digitalization, B2B digitalization of our distributors and retail partners. We have an app of Shikhar. If people have heard of Shikhar as an app, which is the first of its kind digital app where our retailers and partners can order themselves and then can ensure, service at any point of time. And that's kind of really little ahead of the time. We've been pioneering in that. But we also partner with modern trade, open format store, and of course, QCom and eCom. So it's all across the strata. I always believe, and at HUL, we believe that, we're like a Aladdin Chirag. We have to be available as and when the consumer rubs the Chirag, we have to be available, at our arm's length. So that's an approach. And that's, if you start thinking in that way, then we have to think of all this as channels of how we can reach. The second and a very important one, and Pramod also touched upon, is how do you strengthen the trust of the consumer? And trust is to be earned every day. And I'll elaborate more, whether it's the foods and beverages business has to be safety of the products, but also about what is the consumer today looking at. Let me give you a few numbers. India is a large population, but it's also a very young population. We have 377 million Gen Z, okay? 377 million Gen Z. Just look at the maths. 377 million is more than population of many, many countries. In Europe, you can put that across. And out of that, 257 million are in rural. In our mind, Gen Z somewhere, in our mind sometimes comes with urban. And they're consuming the same data, same things, which they are looking. So I was in a village in Lucknow, upcountry. There are women who are looking at, making sushi. They're looking at making, mayonnaise, let me say. In our own mind, we'll think, okay, let's keep mayonnaise of Hellmann's only to the main cities. But they are consuming the same data. They're looking at the recipes all across. And their aspirations, let me tell you, are the same as they're there in Mumbai or in a Delhi main metro. So how do we make it accessible to our consumers, every part of India, and look at it in a very different way of Gen Z? Also, in just 5 years period of time, working women in India has moved out from 2018 from 23% to 40%. That's a huge jump, huge jump. And that means they need more time for themselves. They don't want to be, and we did a survey, and it's not a surprise. And my wife tells me 68% of women don't want to be in kitchen. They don't like cooking. They want to get the time free, okay? So what do we do as a brand to ensure that we are pivoting? For example, we have a brand of Kisan, which is like only known as ketchup brand, but we're also moving to chutneys and cooking aids, everything, so that we can make the life of the consumer easier. So it's very important in conclusion that A, not only we need more stores and retail, but we need also to ensure that the consumer's livelihood and life is becoming much easier. So that's our role as leaders in the business to ensure that we kind of cater to that.
So, you know, Pramod spoke about staying relevant. Raj is talking about digitalization, even the B2B sort of channel partners, talking about convergence and taste across, you know, different types of markets. And let's hear from Sumit what are the couple of enablers his organization is building to capture this growth of retail in India.
Yeah. So I think one behavior that we are getting into, consumer behavior that we are doubling down on, is the consumer journey, which is largely going omni-channel. So we have consumers who walk into our stores on Friday evening, Monday afternoon they're browsing our .com or marketplace, Thursday night they are scrolling over Instagram, and our brand is all there. So what's that's doing to our consumer journey is the interaction with brand has gone up multifold, the commerce occasions have gone up multifold, and to be truly omni-channel, you first have to be omnipresent. And that's something that we already have. So that's something, Shailesh, that we are doubling down on, because that's building on to what we talked about in terms of digitization and staying relevant, getting to where the consumers are going. Another thing that we are doing is we are digging our distribution deeper into tier 2, tier 3 cities. We know about the top 7 cities. These are mega cities, all of them 10 million plus population, very strong mall infrastructure, high street infrastructure, but the aspiration, which Raj also alluded to, is the same in tier 2 city, and the infrastructure is reaching there. The consumers are already there, and we are seeing growth there 2 to 3x of what is there in tier 1 cities. So that's another area of opportunity where we see in the next 300 stores coming in, or digital anyways is penetrating there. And I would specifically like to talk about relevance, because 2 of my brands, Jack and Jones and Only, are Gen Z first brands. And as Raj talked about, India has the largest Gen Z population in the world. And when you look at this consumer, huge aspirations, for them it's not clothing, it's identity, right? They are very brand aware, they are very trend conscious, and they change their mind very, very quickly. Staying relevant to them is probably my biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity. And how do you do that is like every day's job, to understand what they are doing, what are they into, and how do I reach to them. If any brand who can do that very well over the next decade is going to have a business which I think they'll be very proud of.
Thanks, Sumit. Tushar, your views of what your organization doing?
So we want to be part of the ecosystem of the customers shopping, right? We want to be part of your ecosystem when you wake up and you go to our Carrefour hypermarket and buy. So your grocery food should come from Apparel Group, right? Your kids' clothes, we do Nike Kids, and we are going to do a few more kids brand. Want you to shop there. We want to shop at R&B. We want you to have coffee from us. And we want to bring your beauty products from us. We want to be part of your life and part of your ecosystem. Right? The only way to do that is to grow, and to grow in different segments in retail, in different products in retail. We will be getting a sushi library restaurant in India, and we'll be adding F&B division. How can I make sure that you become part of us and we are relevant, and we also keep updating and changing that ecosystem, right? A lot of brands we had, a lot of brands we let go, a lot of new brands we are bringing in. What is relevant today is important to us. In our office or our group, what we also talk about is the mindset. Do we have the mindset for that? Are we ready to change what we are? Are we ready to be agile and go into different segments? Like we were only retail first. We went online. Then we went in shop. Then we went quick commerce. Tomorrow or after 10 years, I don't know what new things will come up. Customer might have a very different or drone delivery system. We don't know. But are we learning and are we adopting? Are we doing it faster? Like one thing that happened in India is Make in India. Right? So we started making in India products for the Indian consumer and even for the global consumers. Sorry, Shailesh.
You know, you see some themes emerging about digitalization, omni. Look at India as different Indias. Raj spoke about 28 Indias. Sumit spoke about tier 3, tier 4 cities. Tushar is talking about Make in India. So I think what panel is saying that there is a need to exploit the opportunity that India, multifaceted opportunities, different sides of India. So that's what the panel is saying, besides staying relevant, digitalization. Last question before we throw open the, for questioning, maybe one or two questions we'll take. Very sharp answer. What are the, like a one big hurdle that can come in your business in this growth journey in Indian retail? Like I'm looking for a very crisp answer, like this one thing, could be a sort of a hurdle for this growth. So Tushar, you want to start any one big hurdle?
I don't see an hurdle, I see an opportunity. I think it's a mindset hurdle. That's the only thing I would like to say.
Brilliant. So he's saying mindset could be the hurdle. Pramod, what do you think?
Okay, we talk about AI these days a lot, but I'll put it the other way. In my mind, it's AII, which is affordability and adaptability. Adaptability is, again, what mindset. Between us as a country, we have to start changing our mindset of thinking big and being aggressive. The other II are informality, in the sense a lot of our retail is still unorganized. How can we make it organized? And infrastructure. So the AII, that's the way I look at it.
To me, I think if the kind of growth that we're talking about, we are a very people-intensive sector, second largest employer in the country when it comes to retail. To get the right quality and train them very well so that every experience is excellent is going to be extremely critical in my view.
Sure.
So for us, it will be infrastructure, which I mentioned in one of the things also. The infrastructure has to develop at the pace at which we want to grow. Perhaps we have that aspiration to grow, but the infrastructure is not growing at that pace.
Clearly, people are saying there's an abundance of opportunity ahead in India. Mindset could be a constraint, infrastructure, talent or development, talent could become. I'll just put two bit from my side. In a lot of time, retail, we talk top line. I think, opportunities also today, risk capital is available. Today, 10 years back, we didn't have the risk capital. Today, you can raise easily 100 crore if you have a good plan and a track record of good execution. So that's another opportunity that's going to be an enabler for growth of business, because without capital, it's difficult to grow. Infrastructure comes from capital, spend in digital will require capital, etc. So, but the point is, if you want to continue to attract capital, then you need to give return on capital employed, right? The matrices on return, ROCE, etc. And a lot of times, I have not seen, the industry focusing well on the financial parameters, on the return parameters, more top line at times. And a lot of businesses which have failed in India and retail have failed because they didn't focus enough on the return matrices. And I would say my personal take is that opportunity enough, but I think the mindset also to respect capital and not just growth, not just the top line, but we need to also look at how do we give returns to the investors, how do we respect capital and give a good ROCE and good return on capital, so that more and more capital can keep coming and then keep helping the growth towards the $2 trillion dollar mark that we all on the panel are talking about. With that, I throw open, and I don't know the organizer how much time we have. I don't have a time clicker here, but anybody can guide me. But I would love to, throw it open. Some questioning to the panels. We have such a experienced panel here, and I'm sure the team here will benefit from the replies. Over to anybody.
Hi panelists, my name is Anshu, I'm from Macquarie. My question is to all panelists. So a lot of discussion is anchored on the macro improving. The per capita income has to come through. Now we saw GST changes happening in September. We saw the income tax cuts. But why has this not translated into demand yet? And what should we as observers, look at from a macro point of view for it to change and that to materialize into demand? This is my first question. And my second question is to the apparel operators, that do you see competitive intensity increasing, particularly, people shifting to value fashion with highly, new players coming up, the store expansion, let's say, of some players that are expanding at left, right, center. So how do you see that playing out in terms of people migrating from, let's say, an Only to a Zudio or to other competitors? So these are my two questions. Thank you.
I didn't understand the first question fully. I'll repeat and just tell me if I understood it correctly. Your first question was why is the demand not going up as fast as it was expected?
Right,
and
right.
the second is the value fashion going up in a big way? Okay. So, okay. So on the second one first, I think the biggest opportunity that we have for consumption in India is turning unorganized commerce into organized commerce, right? Because, as I said, everybody here is probably catering to a very small fraction of the population as of today. And what value fashion like Zudio is doing is it's taking a lot of people who have the aspiration but also can access now coming out of organized retail, and that's really a rocket fuel, and that's why you're seeing that going up really quickly. I do not think the market is saturated enough to cannibalize and take growth out of everybody else, because the whole theme has been we are just getting started. The runway is really long. You stay relevant, you can keep winning at it. That's how I feel about question number 2. And in a way, it segues into question number 1 as well. I think the growth is there. It may not be there for everyone, but it never is. But overall market is growing. Whoever is staying relevant, doing the right things is growing really well.
I'll add a bit. In the last week, the two very big retailers announced their quarterly results, and they both spoke about this new word called densify. We normally now talking about what is called as densify. So this was in the Lenskart result and also in the Tata and the Trent result. Venkat, the CEO, was talking about it. Now, Lenskart has given an index. They're saying in zip code wise, how many stores they have and how they're increasing per zip code number of stores. And they're saying, we want to see that a zip code is growing for us or not. And they're saying before stores cannibalize, we want to densify the demand and consumption. Same thing, Venkat also said that in Zudio's business, they want to now open a lot more stores in tier 3, tier 4, and they also use the word densify. So I think what Sumit is also saying, that we have not reached a point where, expansion or different businesses will cannibalize that easily, because there's an opportunity to what the industry is using the word densify. So you can penetrate a little more the market, and maybe someday it'll lead to cannibalization, but that's a little away from where we are today.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Chaturvedi, and thank you, audience members, for those questions. I'm afraid that's all the time that we had for, but our speakers are going to be around, and I'm sure they would love to have a one-on-one with you. But to thank all of you for your time, your presence, and your thoughts, may I have the pleasure